Alright, welcome to the first of a brand new series going over the horror of the original Resident Evil game. Now, the original Resident Evil game is a staple of the survival horror genre. If you haven't played this game or heard of this game, I'll be wondering how. Like, this is the big deal. This is what started what we are playing now, what we are seeing now. This is the inspiration for many films, many games that try and emulate it, and it really is, you know, a big deal in the gaming industry in general. So what we're doing today is going over my personal thoughts on the horror that Resident Evil 1 does present you, and we'll be starting with the original trilogy of Resident Evil games, and then eventually branching into 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, as well as some side games as well, and then some other game series also. So if you're interested in any game series being covered like this, do let me know. Without further ado, let's just get started. I think for me, Resident Evil's horror is entirely atmospheric. Like, you arrive at this mansion in the middle of the woods, no one's there, but all the lights are still on. You know, it's clearly lived in, clearly people have been there recently, but no one's around at all. Each room you go into, you know, each corridor is lit, there is things there that would make it seem like people are living there, but no one's in sight. On top of that, even when you enter the building, half of your team is missing and you do not know where they are. You are very unprepared and you just don't know what's going on. You've been attacked just outside by God knows what, and there's a lot of questions probably going through the character's mind at the time. You know, what is going on? Where is everyone? And what am I going to do? Only mere minutes into the game and things are unraveling slowly. Like, you are finding things that would suggest something isn't entirely right in this mansion. There is blood, there is, you know, monsters in there that you don't know what they are or how they ended up being there. I think that first initial introduction you get of the zombie in the first Resident Evil game is something that's very iconic now. It's even replicated in the newest film, which again isn't very good, but it's such an iconic scene that everyone knows where it's from, and it really does, like, keep in your mind for a long time afterwards. Hell, even the actual encounter with the zombie itself, you either have to shoot it, and you do not have a lot of ammo with you already at the time, or you run. Like, there's not much you can do. You either shoot it and hope it dies, or you have to run away, you have to escape it, and it really is a shock to the system. You know, 1 minute you're pretty uneasy, you know, you don't know what's going on, and then the next you're faced with this monster, you don't know where it came from, who it is, or what happened, and it's killing your teammate, and, you know, even more questions arise from that. I think as the early game progresses, you do start to see more of what's going on, and the mystery does unravel itself over time. Obviously, you're still not 100% what's going on, but you have a good idea that something isn't right, or something has happened here recently that no one can really explain yet. Even the mansion itself, in a way, is against you. You know, there's many rooms that are locked and require certain ways to get into them. There are traps lying around, even more mystery in certain rooms where things have gone wrong. I think the one that comes to mind for me is the bathtub right at the beginning, where you unplug the bath and the zombie crawls out at you. I think things like that really do add to the atmosphere of the game, because something bad has happened, but it's not really apparent until a good amount of time into the game. I think that is what this game does so well. You know, it is a slow burn for the first few hours. You know, there's a few enemies here and there, a few puzzles to do, keys to collect, nothing too big, but enough to keep you on your toes and to kind of manage how you deal with things in a pretty efficient way. I think that's something that has definitely changed over time with the series. I mean, even Resident Evil 7, which I completely adore, you know, it gives you enough to get by, regardless of difficulty. Like, you're always going to be able to deal with what's going on around you, but in the first game, and even the first 3 games to an extent, you really do have to pay attention to what you're doing, else you are going to get yourself killed or trapped, and there's nothing you can do about it, and that really does add to that feel of horror, more so to the fact that the mansion itself is so compact, it's so tight, and you really can't maneuver around a lot. You are pretty confined to the space, which again is a whole new layer of horror to the game. And that's only the start, you know. As the secrets unfold and you find out what's really going on and what has been going on the whole time you've been there, and then discovering there's more than just the zombies you see in this house. There's so many more different monsters to deal with. You know, there's dogs, there's spiders, snakes, sharks, even things you've never seen before, such as like these plants that are trying to kill you, and even the hunters as well. Like, there's so many different things that make this so much more than just a zombie game. You get to a point and you realise the zombies aren't the issue. The zombies aren't a problem, it's what else is there, and they're so much more threatening, so much more dangerous, and a lot more terrifying to deal with. Even on top of the horror, the game provides the player with choices, and those choices, you know, affect the end of the game. They affect the moral of the character that you're playing as. You know, you either try and save your team and get everyone out, or just try and get out yourself and just survive the night. Like, I think those choices are really well done in this game. They do try and do it again later entries to the series, but I think the first game has a lot more impact with those choices because characters die and do not make it out, and that is always interesting to see. And it does add to that replayability. You know, you can go through again and go, look, okay, I'm going to try and save everyone this time, or I'm going to try and just get out on my own and see what happens, you know, and it gives that whole story a different conclusion that really does change the overall tone of the ending of the game. And speaking of the ending, you know, when you finally get to the conclusion and you really figure out what's going on, the feeling of your team being betrayed and led into their own deaths is pretty big of a reveal, you know, that you've basically been sent here to die purely for purposes of higher corporations. It's not what you really want to hear, and it does kind of really add that whole, you know, you're literally just there to be experimented on, really. Overall, I would say the tone and the feel of the first game is very, very consistent. Obviously, there is this thing with the Resident Evil games where the ending of the game is usually a bit more high stakes, which does make sense because it's the conclusion of the story for the game. The ending's going to be a bit more dramatic, a bit more action-packed, and they're all like that, I think. But no, overall, in terms of the horror for Resident Evil 1, I would say it's less jump scary and like in your face. It's more atmospheric and it builds upon itself as the game progresses. Information gets revealed to you, more monsters get revealed, and yes, you're more prepared for it throughout the game while finding different weapons and more healing, but at the same time, the stakes get higher and higher, and it gets more intense as the game progresses, which is just a really nice, honestly, a really nice gameplay flow. I think that's one thing Resident Evil games do so well overall with the flow of the game, especially the more survival type ones like 1, 2, 3, 7 mainly, and Code Veronica. Like, they really do have that perfect build up where it gets not easier, but you get more prepared as the game goes on, but then the game throws more at you and it's like, okay, what are you going to do now? So it's pretty good, especially in this game. But they are my overall thoughts. Of course, yours can be different. Do you find the game scary in a different way? Do you think it is genuinely quite scary? I would say, again, it's more atmospheric, and it does make you feel uncomfortable while playing, especially those first few times, because you do not know what's going on. You don't know what's coming. I remember the first time I went to the greenhouse area of the game, and you know when you go through the door, the spiders above the doorway in there, that scared the crap out of me. I am not a fan of spiders, so it definitely has its impact at times on other people, depending on what scares you, I guess. But that bit for me was probably the more, oh god, kind of part, because I was not a fan of the big spiders. Not a fan of spiders at all, actually. But yeah, Resident Evil 1, damn good game, very good horror game. Definitely, again, the staple of the survival horror genre. A lot of games are inspired by it, a lot of movies are inspired by it. The formula is still present, even now with 7 and 8, it's still kind of there. And, you know, where there's not zombies anymore, which I will be doing a video about in the future, about the Resident Evil zombie game theory, how it's, like, a discussion, I mean, how it's not a zombie game anymore, even though it never really was. But yeah, I really do like the first game. It is definitely up there in my list as one of the best. As always, though, let me know your thoughts. Do you like Resident Evil 1? Do you think it's scary? Do you think the atmosphere is good? Could you see it being better in other ways? I really do think it does stand up on its own. Even now, it's so much fun to play. More so the remake version than the old one. I was trying to find footage of the original game, but I couldn't find it anywhere really, so it's a shame. But I do want to eventually bring more of the original trilogy to my channel, so hopefully in the future you'll see some more of that. But yeah, this has been the first episode of the Horror of series. Again, we'll be starting with Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, jumping to other game series such as The Evil Within and Silent Hill, covering them in the same kind of way. Some are more broad, I think the word is. Like, there's a lot more tones and different versions of horror thrown into the same game, so some are going to require a bit more of an in-depth look. But Resident Evil 1, I think atmosphere is probably the king in this game, over anything else. But yeah, thank you all for coming by. Remember to subscribe for more Resident Evil and horror content, which I'll upload every single day on this channel, and then stream every single weekend. So there's always something going on. Be sure to turn notifications on so you do not miss a single upload, and I will see you all in tomorrow's video.